So, you learn to do a lot of things in your life. We learn to pick up certain skills, certain abilities, and some that interest us and some that don't. And we're in school for a good portion of our lives, and most required classes don't teach music or teach you more or less how to play any instrument. So today I'm going to explain to you why you should learn some kind of instrument, just for what it could do to benefit you, and I'll give you a couple of ways for that. So whether it be guitar, bass, drums, the kazoo, triangle, learning any one of those instruments can be very beneficial towards you, and I'm going to explain to you why. So first and foremost, it's probably the most important part, but you will woo all the girls. There. I'm just kidding. Alright. So maybe on a more realistic standard, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to dive into a deep history of, a rich history, I should say, of music, basically. So you can go back to all the way to the 700s where Mozart was writing masterpieces or composing masterpieces. And you can go all the way now to like current times where you got your, you got your Jay-Z's, your Beyonce's. I don't know if they play their own instruments, but they are composing technically music. So you dive into like the history of that, and you actually go. It'll interest you more because what you would do is you end up going back into these historic musical times, and you'll be like, hey, you know what? That guy played drums. That guy played guitar. So maybe it'll inspire me to learn that instrument, or kind of maybe just improvise or maybe copy him. Maybe just like, oh, I want to be like that guy. So first and foremost, you can do that mostly first when you're starting out. So another convincing reason to learn an instrument is that it can help sharpen your concentration skills. I have a quote from a web article, and it goes like this. As one develops as a musician, one realizes the importance of keeping one's mind on the task at hand as you are playing through a piece, whether it be classical allegro piece, happy and fast, or a swampy blues ballad. You cannot take your mind off what you're doing for 1 second, or you will end up in a musical ditch. So, what this quote translates to me is that you're learning to play an instrument. When you learn to play an instrument, you must only focus on what's going on in that moment and not think about anything else that's maybe distracting you. So you got to be in that moment, and you got to be learning, this piece, and you can't be thinking about anything else. And what that can help do is sharpen your concentration skills, because it builds time and patience that can be applied to other life situations, and it can help strengthen your focus on other certain tasks. Now, before you think, oh well, I'm not just into learning music. Learning a instrument can help excel at other activities as well, so other interests you might have. So Margaret Bradley, a music expert with the NSW Department of Education and Communities, has this to say. Playing in a group, working to build confidence, playing an instrument is a physical thing. It develops fine motor skills, the kind of motor skills you need to have become a surgeon, for example. The same focus and discipline is needed to play an instrument or participate in athletics. So whether you be like in football or a sport, learning an instrument can help you teach the certain motor skills that kind of not exactly go with baseball. You're not gonna swing a guitar like that. So you're gonna end up kind of just learning the discipline it takes to learn and be the best at your sport. So when you do instruments or you learn to play, even when you bang a drum, you're just building tempo, right? So when you're doing that, it can help help build your rhythm in other activities such as sports. Okay. And still not convinced? How many of you have stressed out in the past weeks? Raise your hands. Okay. Whether it be life, work, finals, or usually most people have none of problems. Yeah. So what can learning an instrument do to help with that? Simple. Learning an instrument can be a natural stress reliever. Playing music teaches discipline, and when you are trying to learn, there is no room for stress in your mind. It can help you forget the struggles that you've been coping with after a stressful day and rejuvenate your mind. So whenever you have a stressful day or something like that, and you come home or something and you just want to get your mind off something, you could just play something and get your mind straight off it. So, what you can do is like just you didn't even have an instrument, you could actually just like hum or something like that. It can really take your mind off something to play a song and just hum along to it. And that can really do is just help refresh your mind and restart your day. So now you're probably asking yourself, well, I can't just pick a guitar or hop on a piano and learn immediately. And that is true. Learning an instrument can take time, even years, to master. So, but there are actually easier instruments you can take up, such as like a harmonica. All you gotta do is literally blow into it, and you make sound. So, you can learn a harmonica, you can do a tambourine, you can just shake, make a rhythm. Or you can even, like I said, you can learn the triangle. You can just ding, 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 and you just like, it's the rhythm right there. You can just start learning your rhythm skills, and you kind of keep time with that. So you can just kind of do anything with something simple that even like can be musical. So that, and I just mentioned, you can do the most natural instrument of all, voice. Singing is something anyone can do. You can have, you don't always have to be an amazing singer, but like I said, even humming to your favorite song can just be like very beneficial. And it can demonstrate the same concentration and stress relieving skills I mentioned earlier. So learning an instrument can actually be quite simpler than you think. And all in all, learning an instrument can be extremely beneficial towards you. It can help sharpen your everyday skills, teach you more about history, and relieve your stress. So my advice to you would be pick up an instrument and make some noise. Thank you.
All right, Brooklyn, what did you think?
I liked how he made it like funny, or how he was like trying to connect to the audience, like saying like references of like music that is like in the now, so we'd be like, oh wow, music, and how he like kind of goes away from the notes for a little bit to like go kind of on his own and talk about, he's like talking to us instead of just reading like when he wants to, when he has an idea, he just gets off the notes and he like talks to us like how he feels about his idea, but he does look at the notes a lot, and there was a lot of gestures. Even though he had his cards, he was like again talking to us, so I like that. And that's it.
That's it.
That is it.
Okay.
I'm not good like this. You're good, Richard. I'm good at this. I'm not good at evaluating people.
You're just offering your opinion. You're just saying.
It's hard.
Man, a little defensive here. Okay, well, there are a lot of things in the speech that I like. I think you probably recognize it as true, and even though our reluctant critic might be hesitant to say it, I think she's also said it. You need a little bit more practice and rehearsal. It could be a lot more polished. I can see things in the speech that would work so well if you were just doing this, because you weren't dependent on the notes, you knew the subject, and you just didn't go to the notes. Like the end, for instance, you've got a great exit line, but you're not selling the exit line like it's you speaking to us. It's like you are looking at the notes, that kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of stuff in the speech that's kind of like that people maybe miss out on, the reference that you meant or the emotion that you're trying to evoke, because they're noticing that you're sometimes having to speak from the notes. I think she's pointed out correctly that when you look up, you do a good job, and when you start, you kind of go off on your own, as it has been described. I know it's all your speech, so it's You're not really going off on your own. What you're doing is you are talking to us, instead of reading to us. And when you do that, I think you're much better. But you do have a lot of times when you're not doing that, so that's a little bit of a problem. That's delivery stuff. I thought that the opening was a little abstract. Your topic's very clear. That part's good. And I thought that there was a pretty good preview in the speech also. It could be a little bit more detailed, but I knew where generally you were headed on this. I just think you need something a little bit more memorable to get our attention, to kind of pull us in. A story, an anecdote, a statistic, something that is fascinating and pulls us in. As it is, I think it just feels a little odd. Oh, we don't always learn stuff in classes like, I'm going, what, huh? What are you talking about? And it just doesn't feel very compelling. Once you get to the topic, though, I think the topic is a little bit more compelling. I don't want to be the only person who points this out. Somebody out there is going to have to recognize that putting Mozart and Jay-Z in the same sentence is a problem. I'm sure that Jay-Z is a fine artist, but like you said, you're not even sure he plays an instrument, that kind of thing. And Mozart, a little bit different. I have all kinds of respect for modern artists. I appreciate that, but come back in 200 years and tell me that Jay-Z fits in that category, I'm with you. There's a little bit of difference there. But the idea is that it's all music. That's the way you want to get to it, whether we're talking about, and I think especially since it's, you talk about learning an instrument, it would make sense to maybe talk about somebody who is an instrumentalist or somebody who is known for being a fantastic drummer or an amazing guitarist or somebody who plays the piano and brings it to an audience, and whether it's somebody that this audience can relate to or somebody that maybe is a little bit older, they're more contemporary references. I almost said Elton John and Billy Joel, but that'll just date me too much. All right. I thought you did a good job signposting your supporting points as you went through the speech. You had one quote that wasn't cited very clearly, but that was a little strange to me because it was like, there's this, you basically tell us that it's a quote and that you're citing it and it comes from a website, but you don't tell us who it was or what's going on there. I thought that was a little bit strange. Later on, though, you give us an expert who's offering some opinion and you give us that person's qualifications. So I just wonder if that was a random comment on the other side or if it came from somebody who's knowledgeable. If it comes from somebody who's knowledgeable, that would enhance your credibility a little bit, and you ought to share those sorts of things. I like the visualization of being in the moment. I think that that's a good thing for people to relate to. I also, when she mentioned that you had a little bit of humor in the speech here and there, I appreciated the 99 Problems reference. I don't know if anybody else caught it, but that's because they're not the one. I didn't say that out loud. You didn't hear me say that. Let's see. Yeah. And I think I already said it. I think you've got an interesting address to the solutions that you're talking about. Look, learning to play the guitar or the drums or the piano, that's complicated and it takes a while, but that doesn't mean that you have to wait to start getting some of these skills. You can pick up a harmonica and make some music almost immediately. Anybody can sing, even if you can't carry a tune, you can at least sing, and that there's some value to that. I like the idea also, you had an earlier reference where you're trying to build some justification into this where people might develop other skills related to this. Gesundheit, you mentioned athletic skills. You're right, playing the piano and using the fingers and that sort of thing and playing football are different kinds of things. But there are timing issues that are a part of that process that seem like that's the kind of stuff that you need to be able to talk about. Or anticipation, or, learning to follow a progression and numbers, and there are things that people benefit from that. You need to make your visualizations a little bit more, I don't know, I want to say poetic per se, but more interesting and involving. I think you've got good ideas there. They just need to be pushed a little bit more. And I think there's a fun speech here that's an interesting one. It's a slightly different persuasive topic that could work well. It would be, this is the kind of thing where if you worked at it and did a nice job at it, you could do this in a kind of competitive sort of thing. It's a fun topic. you get the right information and you go at it, well, I think you could do well with a speech like this, for instance, in competition. It's a good idea. All right, thank you.